I am your host, Nicole Will, and we're so happy you're here as we navigate the world with your aging loved one. We are here to come alongside older adults, family members, and the senior living community as we explore the world of aging and elder care with helpful resources, informative interviews, and approachable conversation. We get to do this together, so join us on our journey, and this is the Will Gather podcast. How can apparel and fashion empower and restore dignity to our aging loved ones, even in the face of physical or cognitive challenges? My guest today is Jimmy Zollo. He is the co-founder and CEO of Joe and Bella. They are on a mission to revolutionize the world of adaptive apparel for our seniors. I'm so happy to have Jimmy back on the show as we explore the inception of Joe and Bella. We talk about the fusion of style and functionality that defines their adaptive apparel. We hear firsthand the stories of how this clothing is transforming the lives of older adults and their caregivers. From the intricacies of design to the broader narrative about aging, we talk about it all. And if you've ever wondered about the color choices in apparel and how their top-tier designer is making waves in the adaptive clothing industry, stay tuned. Jimmy shares about a special fashion show that is challenging stigmas and celebrating age. We also give some well-deserved shout-outs to key players and collaborators who have been pivotal in Joe and Bella's journey. I loved hearing about the real-life impact that this clothing life is making in the world of older adults and caregivers. This is a wonderful combination of aesthetics and practicality in their designs for older adults and caregivers, and the stories that touch our heart. Here is my interview with Jimmy Zollo. Hi, Jimmy. We meet again. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here and to catch up.
I know it's been a little bit, but I just love the impact that you guys are making. I know there's been some evolution. I'd love to talk about that. You and I met, oh my gosh, has it been a couple years ago now? Maybe?
It's been a couple years.
It's been a couple years.
I'm fairly sure we met during a lockdown at some point.
Yeah, I think I remember that. We were both like in our not closets, but like pseudo office space at the time. And we were both, we had similar experiences with our grandparents. And I think that connected us and our heart for others and older adults. So yeah, it's good. It's good to have you back.
It's good to be back, and it's good to be back with much better circumstances, with lockdowns behind us and a very different world.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us more about the evolution. I know that when we do things, we learn and we grow, and then we see how we want to shift. And so tell us more about what you're up to now a little bit. And I know we're going to really deep dive into that, but how that came to be for you.
Absolutely. So we launched during the pandemic. The basic idea was that my grandmother was living in a memory care community. She had dementia. She was living in a wheelchair, and my family was helping to care for her. And that included making sure that she had a lot of essentials, from toothpaste to socks to snacks and treats, and you name it. And when the lockdowns hit, our ability to make sure she had what she needed changed overnight. And it changed not just because, hey, we couldn't call her up and say, what do you need? Because she would always tell us she had everything that she needed. But her staff, the staff at her care community, they were so stressed for time that you couldn't really fully rely on them. So we launched Joe and Bella as a way to ensure that folks living within communities like my grandmother had everything that they needed. And it was just intended to be that, and likely something that we were planning to shut down after the pandemic and lockdowns had lifted. But that changed, and it changed pretty drastically in a way that, for me, especially for me growing up, is something I had never expected to do. Is Joe and Bella is now a fashion brand. We make adaptive apparel for older adults, so clothes that make dressing faster, safer, easier, more dignified, less painful. And the genesis behind that is I was FaceTiming with my grandmother one day. She was cold, and a caregiver in her room, the care partner in her room, went to go get her a sweater. And my grandmother was reaching her arm back to get in the sleeve. And I'll never forget it. It was the first time in my life I ever heard my grandmother swear. and she dropped an F-bomb, and it was
Yeah.
shocking.
Yeah.
And the level of pain she had from just this slight movement was excruciating, and it brought her to tears. And I called the care partner afterwards, and they told me, yeah, this is an everyday occurrence, that dressing, going to the bathroom are your grandmother's worst parts of her day. It gives her immense amounts of stress. And it got to the point where she had stopped drinking water because the idea of having to adjust her pants to go to the
Wow.
bathroom were so intimidating that she'd rather deprive herself of our most basic need. And as horrible as that sounds, it's not that unusual for older adults to make those very conscious decisions. I did what I think anyone would do. I went to Google, or I guess folks now might go to ChatGPT and say, what's out there, and
Mm-hmm.
what can make dressing less painful for my grandmother. And I found a couple options, and I ordered their clothes that promised to make dressing less painful. And when they got to my grandmother, she refused to try anything on. So I called up and say, what's going on? I got you. They're top rated things. They're going to be great. Why won't you wear them? All she would say to me is, they're too ugly.
Mm. Yeah.
And that was the genesis of us going from this side project during the pandemic to becoming a fashion brand for older adults. Because what that moment taught me was pretty straightforward, is that what we wear is part of our identity. And as we age and our bodies and our abilities change, what we wear shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
And aging is already inherently unfair in a lot of ways, and
Right.
clothing shouldn't be one of those things that is unfair. And I remember that there were days, a lot of days, where my grandmother wouldn't know my name. She wouldn't know who I was when I called or when I visited, but she would still know who she was when she looked in the mirror, and know how she wanted to look and how she wanted to feel about her own personal identity. And that has never left me. And it's
Mm-hmm.
been our mission to allow folks who are aging and aging with different changes, both to mobility, to cognition, to range of motion, to be able to wear clothes that they love.
100%. Yeah, I'm like sitting here nodding my head after everything that you're saying. It's so true. I feel so much better when am in clothes that feel like me and what I love and bring me joy. And that doesn't change regardless of our age. And there are so many limited options, right? When we think of, okay, older adult clothing, I think we all can picture what we think that that looks like. But it doesn't have to be like that. In fact, I just had a conversation. I was with a family member, and they were wanting to ask me questions about their loved one that was having a hard time pulling up their pants after using the restroom, and it really limited her. And I was so excited. I was like, check out Joe and Bella. This is exactly what they're dressing. And I think that it is so common for people to have those challenges, not only as an older adult, but as a family caregiver when you're needing to support them and what they're doing and maintaining that quality of life. There's the design of your clothing as well. I would love for you to share, how does it balance that style, right? You like pulling that fashion inspiration, but also the functionality and being comfortable and confident, and kind of addresses some of those unique challenges so that we can maintain that independence. How did you merge those two together?
It took a lot of time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to take a lot more time to introduce new products to the market, because we are so cognizant of having to get both of those right. It not only does it have to look great and feel great, it has to serve a very specific purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So the first pants that we brought to market are pants that are meant for incontinence. So as you were mentioning, family members who are helping a loved one get dressed, incontinence is a really emotional thing to have to deal with on a daily basis. It's actually the number one reason why folks end up moving into assisted living or memory care community of some type, is the family member says, you know what, changing an incontinence brief is sort of that last step. And I get that. So our first pant that we came out with is patented for a zipper design that allows for an incontinence brief to be quickly, safely, and easily changed without the pants coming off. And so that was our first innovation. And the way we went about it was a lot of research. We partnered with a local memory care community here in Chicago called Northbrook Inn, where we were bringing in prototypes, not just for residents to wear and tell us if they liked it, but for their care staff to test to see, hey, does this save time? Does this make things easier? For them to throw in their washers and see, hey, can we really beat this up for them to spill things on? But I don't want to take too much of the credit. What I got really fortunate with was finding an amazing designer. Her name's Kara Sumpton. She was early on at Lululemon, and she was on the startup design team for Figs, which has revolutionized nursing and doctor apparel and nursing scrubs. And Kara was very much in demand, and she almost didn't take our job and our work, but timing was really lucky. And the day before I had a call with Kara, it was her grandmother's 95th birthday, and she bought her grandmother something that the grandmother couldn't wear. And had it not been for that moment, I don't think Kara would be the person designing our clothes today, because she is so sought after. But what we say now is, for those who are lucky, they have had a Joe and or Bella in their life, someone who's been impacted by aging, whether that's a parent or a family member of some sort, or person down the street, and we all are connected to it. And if we're fortunate, we will age and will need products that make our lives easier and allow us to dress independently, or allow us to dress with assistance in ways that current apparel just isn't designed for. So we very much sort of targeted out, hey, what's the use case here? Who are these products for? And when it came to the fashion side of it, I really stepped back and let Kara take over there, because I don't come from the fashion world, and I don't pretend to.
We need that expertise, yeah.
Yes.
So what did you find the feedback was from the community, from the older adults?
It's been really interesting. So the first thing that we found is, for these pants in particular, it took us a while to get the fit right. And that was the most important thing. So it's a pant that, if you're wearing an incontinence brief, it's got to be comfortable with the brief new and dry, and it's got to be comfortable with the brief full. And it's got to be, and when I say comfortable, both physically but also emotionally. So you've got to feel good that if you're walking to go get changed, that folks won't notice that you're wearing a full incontinence brief that needs to be changed. So getting that fit right, which we eventually did after a lot of different iterations, was the most important thing. Then getting the fabric right too goes hand in hand with the fit. So it's something that's super durable, that's going to hold up both in a wash, that can take a beating, that plays well with zippers and snaps. So getting that right was the next thing. We were actually back yesterday at the care community, because we're coming out with a few other items. They've been especially helpful when it comes to picking out colors. So I'll show up with a stack of color swatches I probably showed up with about 50 different swatches yesterday, and everyone comes and votes, and that's been really, really helpful, and has made a big difference. So we are very much designing for the folks that are wearing the clothes, and we're taking their input every single day.
Yeah. Okay. I have two follow-up questions. One is around efficiency for staff, but the other one is, any colors that surprised you? Are they leaning towards more neutrals, or are they gravitating towards some bright colors? I'm just curious.
So yes, I would say the men have not surprised me one bit. The men, like, their dark blues and their blacks and their grays, and the men are very much of my heart.
Right.
The women, on the other hand, the women want to be bold, and I think this is a generation that they dressed up every single day. The women in our communities right now who are in their 90s, they were wearing dresses and high heels every single day, and they still have that in them. So yesterday we're picking out colors for a women's top. The winning color was a bright orange, which may have been my last guess and my last pick, but it was a dominant vote. So I think we're going to go ahead and come out with a really bright orange top, which is definitely a statement piece.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. That's so fun. And then with the efficiency side, did it help those caregivers save time and energy for all of that?
It's significantly.
Yeah.
And we're working to actually get some validated third-party data on that, which by the end of the summer we should have. So we're setting up a study in about 6 different care communities across the country, in which residents will be split up into 2 groups. One will be wearing our apparel, others will not, and we're going to test. So how long does it take folks to get dressed in the morning, changed at night? How long does it take folks who are incontinent to go to the bathroom and have their briefs changed during the course of the day? We believe we're going to save close to 65 to 75% of the time. And then when you look at that for, let's say, a community of 60 residents, all of whom need help, and the amount of time savings for the care staff there is really, really meaningful. And that allows the staff to do what really matters. It's engaging. It's building relationships with the residents. It's not putting on their clothes. It's getting through that fast and safe and comfortably. And then it's making sure everyone is has that emotional side of things that is far more important in a community. So we're really, really excited about being able to come out with that research. And to an extent, we also think it's going to keep the staff safer. So one of the number one reasons for workers' comp within care communities is around transfer. So getting someone from a wheelchair to a toilet, or and those injuries happen not because the staff is untrained. It's because, oh my God, I need to move this person, and there are 8 other residents who are desperately in need of my help. So the staff member is going too quickly because they're trying to get to everyone, and that's when accidents happen. So anytime we can cut down on time and save folks, give them their time back, they're going to be less likely to get hurt.
Oh, absolutely. And the urgency, when we have to use the restroom, we want to be able to use the restroom, and we don't want to have to try to wait and have all that come together. So I could see that. Wow, that's huge. That is significant. I'm excited to see how that comes out, which I know will be good. There's an episode I released yesterday, actually. It was with an occupational therapist, Lindsay DeLong with Equip Me OT, and we were talking about, mobility and things in the home. And it's making me think of that conversation as you're sharing, because she was sharing about how when we add in these adaptive tools and support systems, it isn't to take away from the loved one's independence, but what it does is it allows them and reserves the energy for them to then be able to do the things that bring them that joy and purpose, right? It's like, I would spend so much, your loved one could spend so much energy and run out of all of their reserve for the day based on doing the tasks for necessity, rather than, I get to go out to lunch, and then I'm going to go play this game, and I'm going to do that, and for the things that really bring us that quality of life. So I could see that being just a huge tool in maintaining that and reserving that energy.
That's exactly right. We all have our limits, and being a care partner is really, really hard, physically, mentally, emotionally. It is really, really hard. And anything that gives you time back, that takes some pressure off, is worth it. And we're also trying to design apparel in a way that gives independence back to the individual that's wearing the clothes. So for example, we just released a men's magnetic button down that is meant for individuals living with Parkinson's or arthritis, or maybe they have other limits to dexterity, but it allows for a traditional button down to go up and without the buttons having to go through the holes. It just snaps on up really easily with one hand. So ideally, products like that, which reinforce existing behaviors that look exactly the same as what someone would always be wearing, but allows for that individual to dress themselves. So that's part of our goal too.
Oh, that's huge. So you mentioned Parkinson's and things like that. Explain some of the other apparel that you have and how it would support some of those more common mobility challenges in that way.
Absolutely. So Parkinson's is a great example. So we use things like magnets in place of buttons or snaps to allow shirts to go on more easily. We're coming out end of July with a new design for a men's and a women's top, both of which are actually open in the back. So these are designs that are specifically meant for individuals who cannot dress themselves. So maybe they are in a wheelchair. Maybe we have a lot of individuals who purchase these type of products who have maybe ALS or paraplegic. So it goes on almost like a hospital gown, but the closures are really cleverly hidden, so no one can see it. And it looks totally like a normal polo or everyday t-shirt. And it just goes on more easily. And there's less finagling. There's less sort of pushing and pulling and prodding to get something on. We believe in what's known as universal design. So we try and design our apparel for those with the most acute needs, with the belief that if we can effectively design apparel for them, they will have benefits for individuals with less acute needs. Like the button down, for example, that's something I would wear. It's why not? It goes up easier. It's more comfortable. So of course that everyone would want to wear that if it's easier to put on, it's faster to put on, and it looks just as good as it's more comfortable. So that's our goal. Yes, we are designing for very acute needs, but by doing so, we're hoping that we reach out to a broader audience. I'm curious, from your previous episodes talking about adaptive equipment, is one of the things we're very conscious of is stigmatization of aging, as well as the changes that come with aging. And by making the clothes look the way they do, we're trying to do everything we can to sort of get away from being stigmatized, because no one wants to wear clothes that make them feel different. So our goal is to avoid that, and it's tough, but that's something we'll think about a lot.
Right. And you can see that when you look at the clothing. And I also witnessed you had shared some pictures from a fashion show and elevating, and the joy and the smiles on everyone's face that participated in that. How did that come together? What was the response like that you saw?
Well, I would start by saying it was the most incredible moment of my professional career, and I am so grateful for everyone who made it a reality, particularly the folks at Belmont Village, and this was the location in Lincoln Park. So the story behind that was we had our first photo shoot last year, and we went out to LA to have the photo shoot, because that's what fashion brands, I guess, are supposed to do. And I fell into that rut and made the typical start of mistake of thinking, oh yeah, we're a fashion brand, we should go have a
Go
photo
to
shoot.
LA. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. That's where the fashion capital is, I guess. And I had to reach out to all of these modeling agencies and letting them know who we were looking for, and that, hey, we're a brand for older adults, and sort of giving them our specs and our requirements for the types of models we were looking for. And we would get pictures back being like, hey, I've got the perfect model for you. And it would be some 20-year-old bodybuilder on the beach.
Oh,
and so our first photo shoot was just a total mess,
oh no.
because
It wasn't the real stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it just did not appropriately represent who we're trying to serve and why. And I learned a lesson. And so for a while, I've been thinking, all right, I want to do a fashion show, but I didn't really know where to turn. And I was able to get connected to a man. His name's Tom Sanders. And Tom became really well known as a portrait photographer of World War II veterans. He has his portraits are up at O'Hare Airport in Chicago. He has a best-selling book of his portraits, just unbelievable, beautiful work. But what has happened, of course, is World War II veterans are living in care communities across the country right now. And Tom, because of that, has become the foremost expert in photographing older adults in this country.
Wow.
And so I told Tom what had happened, and let him know, hey, I really also want to do a fashion show. And Tom suggested and connected me to Belmont Village in Chicago. And we were able to host a 2-day photo shoot and fashion show at their community, where we had about 15 residents. Their average age was 88, participate. And it was just amazing. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity. So we had a runway that everyone went down. We had an MC who was absolutely amazing, and everyone was wearing Joan Bella apparel. And half the models went down with walkers or wheelchairs or canes, and they were dancing. And it was just this beautiful, emotional, empowering event in a way that I think transcended what my expectations were. I was going into it, my hope was, hey, everyone makes it down the runway safely. And that was like the extent of what I was hoping. It ended up being something far more. And I'll give you an example. Was when we had when the folks at Belmont had told their residents what we were looking to do, one of the women who ended up being a star for us, named Joanne, didn't want to participate, and she told them that she didn't understand why a clothing brand would want to do this with them,
Mm,
and she wanted to know if we were doing it with them to make fun of them in some way.
wow.
She thought there is no way that someone would look at me and think I'm beautiful and that I ought to go down a runway or I ought to be in a fashion show.
Mm,
I end up spending a lot of hours talking with Joanne, and by the end of it, she's now cover of a catalog that's going out for us, and
incredible.
she
Just got
was in a
goosebumps.
viral
Mm,
social media post, and she looked absolutely incredible. And that experience, I think, helped change her perspective, and frankly, it changed my perspective as to I knew there was a lot of ageism when it came to clothing and apparel and
yeah.
fashion. I didn't being 35, I of course never personally experienced what that must feel like. And Joanne gave me a lens into that. And because of that, I think we're going to be forever more conscious about how we represent older adults and make sure we're always doing it in leading with joy and
Yeah.
leading with aspiration.
Thank you for sharing that. It really causes us to think about that, right? And just how it can affect the mental health of people around us and how they view themselves. But you made her day and year, and who knows how many other people that you're impacting and those around you are impacting. So, thank you.
No, I mean it was a gift to us. The models were unbelievable, and we learned more than we had the previous year of trying to build this business about who we're trying to help and how we can best serve them. And we're just grateful to Belmont and to Tom for making that happen for us, and of course to Joanne and all the other incredible models that helped out.
Yeah. Well, you answered my question, which is like, tell us how this has, impacted the lives of other people, and that's the perfect example of that. I foresee more fashion shows in your future, I'm sure.
I we it's so we posted a video on social media, and we had I think about 15 different communities have reached out to us asking if we'd be open to hosting one at their place. So yes, there will be more on the
Yeah.
way. I can't tell you when, but we will definitely do at least one more this year. I think going forward, our
Oh,
goal will be to do maybe 2 to 3 a year, always aligned with new product releases. But we're really excited, and
that's
we think we know
incredible.
how to execute it now, and it'll only get bigger and better from
Yeah,
here.
exactly. Well, if you're near where I am, I'll come and I can interview some of those residents. We can do
Be
a
amazing.
fun a fun share about that. For people that are maybe hesitant, right? Or wondering like, how do I broach the conversation with my loved one, or I don't know, have their own questions about it. What would you share with them about the importance of being open-minded to that and kind of shifting our mindset around that ageism?
It's a really tough topic, and I'll give you what my grandfather had Parkinsonia dementia, and there were a lot of tough conversations. I remember when he was no longer allowed to drive, what that conversation was like.
Mm,
When a care partner had to start staying with them during the day, and then when a care partner had to stay, a new different one had to come and stay with them during the night. And the conversation, of course, of when it was time to move into a memory care community because the 24/7 in-home care wasn't enough
mm.
at that point. So I would say there are so many really, really tough conversations that come along with aging. And adaptive apparel is fortunately one of the easier ones that you will have. My what I would say that the best way to do it is probably just to get some of the adaptive apparel and let them see it for themselves, because I think it stands up, and frankly I don't even think you need to tell them it's adaptive. I
Right.
think you can just say, hey, I got you a new shirt, and if they try it on, they're gonna like it and they're gonna look good. So that's what I would say. I remember with my grandfather that the trick to getting in to move into a memory care community was letting him know, hey, by the way, they serve bacon every morning for breakfast. That
That's a win.
it took
Yeah.
us a while, but that was the turning point. I don't think you're gonna have to be as convincing with our clothes though.
Yeah. Oh, good. I think so too. I think so too. So, what are the future aspirations and goals, and what is your vision moving forward? What do you see Joe and
So
Bella doing?
we're really ambitious about where we think this can go. Look, we live in the reason why you have this podcast and so many people listen to it and you have so many amazing guests who are able to come on is because we're living in an aging society that needs a lot of modern solutions. 10,000 Americans are turning 70 every day, two-thirds of whom have a disability, two-thirds of that number have multiple disabilities. By 2033, there are going to be more Americans over the age of 65 than under 18 for the first time ever. So based upon those shifts, based upon the amount of need that is out there, our ambition is simply to help as many individuals as we possibly can to dress faster, safer, easier without having to sacrifice the way in which they look themselves in the mirror. By the end of July, we'll have 9 products out to market. Our goal is probably to get to 12 total by the end of the year. And we'll see where things go in the future. I think there's a difference between, I know I've used the word fashion a lot. I don't consider us a fashion brand because I think there's a difference between fashion and apparel. Fashion to me means you're constantly coming out with a bunch of new things.
Right, or new
I
trend given the
Yeah,
season.
and
Yeah,
so we don't
yeah,
want to be trendy. Rather, if there are specific needs that we think are unmet
yeah. Mm-hmm.
by other current brands, then we're going to attack those. And we're also very open to ideas, and we're really collaborative with the care communities that are in our network. So if anyone has ideas of, hey, my loved one may he doesn't wear button downs, but he always wears short sleeve polos, whatever it might be, let us know because we want to make sure we have the right solutions in place to make life easier for those that need our products.
Yeah. And you mentioned care communities, but it is also anyone in home,
That's right.
anywhere, even any age, right?
Any
Whatever
any
our
any
need
age,
is.
anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good. You've got a great board and team. I think I've seen a couple names mentioned. Tell us more about who you're kind of collaborating with and bringing on to even grow that perspective and support.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been really, really fortunate. And if fashion's my weakness, my strength tends to be networking.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been able to put together a board of about half the folks are senior care experts and half are fashion experts. And just to highlight a few, we were able to bring on Sevi Petras. Sevi is the CEO of Priority Life Care, which is a phenomenal network of senior housing and hospice in this country. She's also on the board for Argentum now. Sevi is just a star in the space, and she's really well connected, and she cares so much about older adults. And if you live near Priority Life Care and you're thinking about options, definitely check them out. And also on the board are folks from Byam Capital, which provides mortgages for senior housing in this country, and Jason Zakari from Hamilton Insurance. And Jason's also on the board for Seth Rogen's Alzheimer's Foundation. So the folks that back us from the senior care side are just fantastic and have been really helpful for us to better understand the market and where we're going. From a fashion side and an apparel side and a manufacturing side, we brought on an individual. His name's Paul Bloom. Paul is the former CEO of Kenneth Cole, David Yurman, Juicy Couture, and Fred Siegel. So Paul is a powerhouse. He's been around forever, and we're really, really excited that Paul is part of this team. He's been instrumental with us when it comes to the branding side of things. For example, he worked with me a lot about the fashion show and how we should think about that and how we should go about executing that. And really grateful to have Paul. In our newest edition, which I'm really excited about, Chitra Balradi. Chitra, former CEO of Therese, and she's currently the CEO of Glossier. So
Mm.
Chitra has this amazing supply chain and manufacturing mind, and that's where right now things couldn't be harder.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's, yeah.
fortunately, Chitra is an expert in giving us advice there. So we've been really fortunate to build this team to support what we're building.
Incredible. It's such a great team, and we need that community of support. Absolutely.
As you know,
Absolutely.
building something from the ground up, I don't believe in being a solo entrepreneur. I don't think that works.
Yeah.
It's all about having a team and people who know things that I don't know or
Right.
won't know.
Right.
So I'm really fortunate to be surrounded by some great people.
So good. Thank you. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for you guys and support you in any way that I can. So I valued this conversation. I'm so glad we had time again to reconnect and catch up. And I look forward to doing it again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here. Really appreciate it and can't wait to catch up soon.
Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed our episode, please subscribe and give us 5 stars. In all honesty, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening to our episode.